CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page. A world opens with 你好.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Now the news. I'm Zhou Fang. Leaders of China and Britain have voiced support for the World Health Organization's role in the global fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. This follows a phone call between Chinese President Xi Jinping and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Xi Jinping says he hopes that the two countries coordinate with each other to minimize the risk of the spread of the virus, while ensuring the necessary flow of people and trade. He says China is ready to provide support and help for Britain, calling on the country to better safeguard the health and safety of Chinese nationals living there. Boris Johnson says Britain thanks China for its support and help and will do its best to take care of the health and safety of Chinese nationals. He says his country has been learning from China's experience and taking effective measures to prevent and control the pandemic. The head of Iran's armed forces has thanked China for providing Iran with medical assistance in the battle against COVID-19. China has dispatched several consignments of medical supplies to Iran since February 19th, when Iran announced the first case of infection with the novel coronavirus. A team comprising 5 experts from the Red Cross Society of China arrived in Tehran at the end of last month. There are more than 23,000 confirmed cases in Iran so far, with over 8,000 recovered. The Chinese capital Beijing has demanded all arrivals from overseas to undergo concentrated quarantine and nucleic acid testing starting from Wednesday, as the number of imported cases of the novel coronavirus disease continues to increase. The new rule will also cover those who visit the city after arriving through other Chinese ports within 14 days. The city government says the quarantine expenses shall be paid by passengers themselves. The World Health Organization Director General is calling on G20 countries to jointly address the global shortage of personal protective equipment in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says reports of infections among health workers are increasing, stressing that protecting them must be prioritized.
Solving this problem requires political commitment and political coordination at the global level. This week, I will be addressing heads of state and government from the G20 countries. Among other issues, I will be asking them to work together to increase production, avoid export bans, and ensure equity of distribution on the basis of need.
So far, more than 300,000 coronavirus cases, including over 14,000 deaths, have been confirmed around the world. The number of coronavirus infections in France has reached nearly 20,000, up by over 3,000 in one day. Around 9,000 patients have been hospitalized, including 2,000 in intensive care units. Health Minister Olivier Véran says military facilities have been used to ease the burden of hospitals facing patient capacity saturation due to the coronavirus outbreak. Véran says the government will authorize the use of an anti-malaria drug in the treatment of severe forms of COVID-19 in hospitals. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says the state has recorded 5,000 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total number to over 20,000. Cuomo appealed for proportional federal help as his state is the most impacted by the virus.
Fund the need. New York, we have 20,000 cases. New Jersey, 1,900. California, 1,800. So proportionately, in absolute terms, New York has by far the greatest need in the nation.
Cuomo also called on Washington to use the Federal Defense Production Act to ensure that companies produce the required quantity of medical supplies to deal with the coronavirus spread. President Donald Trump has avoided using this power, saying nationalizing businesses is not a good concept. The number of cases nationwide topped 40,000 as of Monday. Over 480 have died. And that's the news. I'm Zhou Fang.
Capturing images of people across China, exploring its ever-changing lifestyles, and feeling the heartbeat of its villages, towns, and cities. This is Selfie. This is Selfie, giving you real-life stories in China.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Selfie, a show that brings you inside the lives of Chinese people. I'm your host, Tony Reed. This is the final song for a popular TV series called Haven't You Ever Known, which was sung by two schoolgirls from a band called Stone and Children. The band mainly consists of adolescents and young kids. Though it's hard to believe, one of the singers was once told she wasn't suitable to sing, and the other hardly ever performed in public. Fortunately, everything changed when they met their voice coach, Shi Dongying. Shi has added his expertise to a comprehensive training system for youngsters once they realized that young people regularly lost their singing voices after puberty when their voices change. Shen Ting talked to Shi Dongying and some of his band members to find out more.
The song is called Hu Guangsheng. It's named after the male leading role in the Chinese movie A Cool Fish. The song is actually a monologue of the female leading character Ma Jiaqi, expressing her reluctance, regret, and incapability of breaking a promise with whom she is deeply in love. Ma has an incurable illness and could die at any moment, but she does not want her love to have to face up to her death. This version is sung by the schoolgirls Shi Jiaxi and Han Tiantian. Despite their young age, they managed to convey perfectly the feeling behind the music that so many people are sure to have experienced. The helplessness of separation and the unpredictability of life. The performance has gone viral on Chinese social media and video platforms. The performance touches most people who watch it and provokes questions as to who the girls are and how they can sing as well. In fact, Shi Jiaxi and Han Tiantian are two members of a band called Stone and Children. It has more than 50 members and is organized by music producer Shi Dongying. Stone refers to his surname, Shi, and Children indicates that all of the students in the band are aged between 7 and 18. Many netizens are fond of this band and give affectionate names to the members they particularly like. Take Shi Jiaxi, for example. Her fans began to call her Shi Gunyang once they found out that's what her mother calls her. Yet these apparently talented girls never thought they would make such an achievement in music before they met their music instructor Shi Dongying.
About 3 years ago, it was impossible for me to sing in public because some people had laughed at me and said my voice was hoarse and a girl should not sound like that.
I live in the village. Before I learned how to sing with Mr. Shi, I just sang by instinct. I never dreamed so many people would like listening to me one day. My teacher heard me humming a song in school and then videoed me singing and posted on TikTok, a platform for sharing short videos. We never expected anyone to take any notice, but some web users sent the link to Mr. Shi, and then he contacted my teacher.
Learning singing with Shi opened up a brand new world for them, and they suddenly realized they could do something different. Shi said it was a coincidence that he became a musical instructor of children and adolescents. He remembers the first time he met Jia Xi and the dilemma he encountered.
I asked her to sing a bit, and it was a total disaster. She was definitely tone deaf, but the features of her voice made me listen. I never imagined such a young girl would have such a deep, thick voice.
Most other music teachers pick students with pure, clear, thin voices, the so-called child's voices, which are prevalent on the music scene. Because Jia Xi's voice was completely different from this criterion, Shi's accepting her to the band was once considered a bold decision.
I didn't have any confidence that she would make such an impressive improvement. I really liked her unique voice, and I was really curious what it would be like if she sang rock music. So I decided to give it a go and see what would come next. After about half a year, her intonation gradually became better, but it was still far from what it is now.
Shi isn't just a talent discoverer. Forming Stone and Children Band was actually aimed at changing the way children are taught to sing in China these days, a training system that he believes could damage children's young, delicate vocal cords. After graduating from a music university, Shi became a record producer, which gave him lots of opportunities to help children and youngsters record musical productions in a studio. He found that some of them had a very wide musical range and could easily reach a high pitch. But once their voices changed, they lost this ability. He recalls one of the young singers decided to learn singing with him to try and prepare for the entrance exam of a music university in 2 years' time. Shi was shocked at what the student sounded like when he sang a high note.
He had just gone through the voice change period, and his parents asked me to help him improve his singing. I asked him to sing 1 octave, starting from middle C, but when he was about to get to C5, he couldn't do it. His voice croaked. It was bizarre because I knew he could do much better than that, so I suggested that the boy should have a medical check. The test result was heartbreaking. It turned out that his vocal cord had been damaged irrevocably because of vocal abuse before his voice had changed. This meant the child would never be a professional singer.
Shi says the case is not unique. He knows lots of music teachers across the nation, and they say it happens from time to time. He has also had feedback from parents whose children have temporarily lost their voices after half a day rehearsing in choir. Why is this happening? Shi believes some teachers often ask students to squeeze their throats or use more power to sing if they can't reach a certain pitch. It's effective in the short term, so it's done more often to please parents who are eager to see improvement quickly and want their children to win singing competitions.
In my job, I witnessed how children were taught to sing high notes in my studio. They were often asked to squeeze the muscles in their throat to reach high pitches, and I didn't agree with this method at all.
I have seen many international singing competitions. The way young singers from Malaysia, Singapore and other countries sing is entirely different from how our children do. I can tell they don't squeeze to try to hold the breath, but keep everything relaxed. This is correct, and it's the skill our children need to learn.
Since 2012, Xu and several other professionals have been looking into a scientific training method for children. The core of his system is to use the diaphragm, a muscle situated horizontally between the thoracic and abdominal cavities, to force air from the lungs through the voice. It can effectively relax the vocal cords while singing.
Based on this theory, we created approximately 100 singing practices, which can be categorized into 5 stages. When I was building the system, I designed it in a way that meant it could be easily passed on to a large number of musical professionals so that more and more children would benefit from it.
After 7 years of continually improving his training system, Xu has achieved good results in his training school in Shandong province in eastern China. Many of his students come from different parts of the country, like Beijing, Anhui, Jiangsu, and Hebei. They attend his class on weekends or school holidays. He hopes the more professionals see his results, the more we'll use it and disseminate it to others.
There are 50 members in my band. About 20 of them are going through a voice change, but none of them had stopped singing. Some have successfully gone through this period. It's really a huge loss that so many children once had such beautiful voices, but have had to stop singing because of our immature training methods. I want to change it. When I explained my method to some